Between the Old and the New Testament, there were 400 years of silence. The 400 years of silence refers to the time between the Old Testament and New Testament, during which God did not speak to the Jewish people. The Old Testament ends with the words of the Lord quoted by Malachi in Malachi 4:5 and 6. "Look, I am sending you the prophet Elijah before the great and dreadful day of the Lord arrives. His preaching will turn the hearts of fathers to their children, and the hearts of children to their fathers. Otherwise I will come and strike the land with a curse." The first mention of Elijah in the New Testament is what Jesus said about John the Baptist in Matthew 11:13 and 14. "For before John came, all the prophets and the law of Moses looked forward to this present time. And if you are willing to accept what I say, he is Elijah, the one the prophets said would come." Between the Testaments, many Jewish people were becoming more at home with the Greek language, rather than Hebrew. In Egypt, the Old Testament was translated into Greek. That translation, known as the Septuagint, was produced about 150 BC. An institution that arose after the Babylonian captivity of the Jews was the synagogue. The temple in Jerusalem had been destroyed by the Babylonians. With no temple in which to worship, during the Babylonian captivity, the Jews gathered in small groups to worship and be instructed in the law of Moses. When you begin reading the New Testament, you will see synagogues mentioned often. The first mention is in Matthew 4:23. Jesus traveled throughout the region of Galilee, teaching in the synagogues and announcing the good news about the kingdom, and he healed every kind of disease and illness. Another institution that arose between the Testaments was the Jewish High Council, known as the Sanhedrin. It was the Jewish Supreme Court of its day. This High Council was prominent in the trial and death of Jesus, as Matthew 26:59 says. Inside, the leading priests and the entire High Council were trying to find witnesses who would lie about Jesus so they could put him to death. From this, we learn that some of those most opposed to Jesus were the religious leaders of his day. This is a lesson for today, not to trust religious leaders who do not believe the Bible is the inspired Word of God.